What if I told you that you can apply to 100 jobs, 200 jobs, maybe even 300 jobs a day without lifting a finger? You can upload your CV, the job, the credentials, the type of companies into a system, and it can apply for you. Now, I'm not talking about ChatGPT, I'm talking about agentic automation application tools. And if you're on Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube, you're probably seeing a lot of adverts. And I predict there's going to be a lot more of that happening. Now, is that a good thing? I don't think so. And I think the problems you probably would have faced last year, if you've had any market saturation issues, you're going to feel a lot more of that this year due to these tools. So give Mr. Smith from the Matrix a rest for a second and hear me out. If you're using these tools, I don't think it's going to increase the chances of you getting into a role. I think it's actually going to decrease the chances dramatically. If you can apply for 300, 400, 500 jobs a day and you don't know what you're applying for, and you have a system that's constantly changing your CV using basic prompts that you probably would be already using with ChatGPT, and it's increasing the number of applications, you might think that's a good thing. But let's say you apply to 100 jobs a day. You might be usually applying to 10 a day. And that increases your chances from a logical standpoint. Sure. But what if somebody else does the same? What if 50 people do the same? What if 1,000 people use these systems all at the same time? What if 40% of the competition of an architect position are using the same system to apply to all of these jobs? You're not thinking from the company's perspective, receiving 50,000 applications, all AI created and automated by these agentic tools. Now, do you think that improves the chances for you? Now, before you were probably competing with 3,000 to 5,000 people. Now you're competing with 50,000 people, 90% of which don't even know they've applied for that job. So if you really want to work for a specific company and you just apply, you're competing not with other people that want to work for that company. You're competing with people who don't even know that they've applied for that company, hoping to get a job because they're really passionate about paying their bills. So how do we stick out from the crowd? What do we do? Well, you probably noticed in some of my videos, I talk about networking, thinking outside of the box. And right now, it's not a requirement to maybe do it. It's a necessity. Now you have to. You have no choice. Because if you had a tough job search last year, it's only going to get tougher because the competition is fiercer. There's more people. There's companies deploying AI tools to handle the AI tools that you're using to make more strategic applications. And if you really think about it, the job market is so twisted and so broken that you are using AI tools to make more applications. Companies are using AI tools to reduce applications. And then you're sort of deploying your robot against the company's robot, and the company's robots deploying their robots against your robots. It sounds a bit mad, right? And my prediction is that this year is going to be tougher if you rely without thinking on these AI tools. Now, that's not to say that you should not be using AI. I personally love AI, but I like to think that I use it from a logical standpoint in an emotionally intelligent way. I would like to think so. So I don't allow AI to just run with it. I look at AI. I try to figure out how it can improve the way I research, the amount of work that I can do to improve the quality of work that I do. So it's how you think about AI is really going to depict how you actually use some of these tools. Now, if we're thinking about AI from a company standpoint, companies have two decisions to make. They're going to hire people to use AI better, or they're going to fire a ton of people because they can reduce the workload by increasing the knowledge of AI with a smaller group of people. Now, regardless of what camp you sit on the company side, one thing's for sure, it's going to be tougher to get into roles regardless of some of these tools. You need to be AI native, but also you need to be human when it comes to your job search. You need to stick out from the crowd. You need to make connections. When I speak to people on a daily basis, the biggest thing that I notice is communication levels and styles have dipped massively. People don't introduce themselves anymore. They don't ask, how are you? They really do not know how to sell themselves. They rely on these systems so much that my prediction for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years is people are just going to rely on all of these tools to a degree, play the lottery of hopefully getting a job, hopefully not really needing to introduce myself, not show people skills, and they're going to be left behind because there are going to be people who know how to present themselves, who know how to improve their communication ability today to be really communicative in the future, who can use these AI tools in a really strategic, human way. Don't rely on them with your eyes closed and hope for the best, because I can tell you one thing from my experience last year dealing with so many job seekers who have relied on ChatGPT too much or use different variations of agentic AI to make more applications in a shorter amount of time. It doesn't end well. You get to a position where you're going to blast your application to everybody and anybody. You're going to get a few calls, but they might not be the right fit. The company would say, well, why do you want to work for our company? And you don't even know who the company is. You don't remember making the application. You're kind of thinking this is going to fix everything. I'm going to get an inbox of all these offers. You're not. You're going to get an inbox of varied results. Most likely, unfortunately, you haven't been successful. You're going to apply to jobs, and then 2 minutes later, you're going to get a rejection. Your CV is going to be great because you've used AI to create it, and everybody does. But what you haven't done and what you haven't accounted for is personal branding. You need to have what I like to call an ideal employer profile. There's a list of companies that you want to work in. You need to have a sales pitch, which is an elevator pitch. So when a company says, why should we hire you? You need to have a 30-second tight pitch that sells why you're the right fit. If you don't have that, you're going to be falling behind because there's going to be someone else who's better at selling themselves than you. There's always someone who's going to be better, right? But improving your chances by fitting into all of these boxes of being able to sell yourself, having a strategy, reaching out to people, having meetings, putting yourself out there. If you want to work for Microsoft, connect to people in Microsoft, understand what the company culture is like. Imagine a role play where someone from Microsoft gives you a call. How do you sell yourself? If you're going to apply for jobs in Microsoft, don't just limit yourself to traditional jobs. Look at hidden jobs. There's so many of them out there. So again, the moral of this video is to save you a ton of time. Do not put all of your faith and energy and blind trust into AI agentic tools. I'm going to upset a lot of people that run these companies, and I know that. But trust me when I tell you, if you put blind faith into these tools without actually checking or putting a human element into your job search, you will be disappointed. And more than that, this is going to create 10 times of a problem that you had last year, because the biggest issue that people face right now is market saturation. Tell me this. If you can apply for 100 jobs in a month, and now you have the ability to apply to 1,000 jobs a day, and so many people have the same ability, and your issue before was, I'm competing with 3,000, 4,000 applicants. Now you're going to be competing with that on steroids. 50,000 applications. Companies shutting down job adverts because they're just inundated. Hiring managers already in articles writing the fact that, hey, I just can't even read through all of these CVs. There's too many. And they all look the same. Everybody's CV resume looks amazing, but I don't know who to select. I have conversations with people in companies that tell me, Milo, we don't know who to actually select. Everybody's CV resume looks great, but we're getting messages from people on LinkedIn. We're focusing on LinkedIn profiles more. We're focusing on what people are posting. We're focusing on why they want to work in our company. How are they going to fit in with our team? Now, AI automation tools will not fix that. But you know who will fix it? You. So get a strategy, start reaching out to people, and let's make 2026 your year where you get into a role.